Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is February 13th, 2022. You're now watching Real Talk with Ronnie live. And happy Super Bowl Sunday. I'm sorry to be broadcasting during the Super Bowl, but the show must go on, right? The last I checked, the game is a really exciting one. I think the Bengals are down by 3. The last that I checked prior to that, they were down by 10, but then they made this super cool touchdown, and now they're only down by 3. So we'll see what happens next. Anyway, on my Super Bowl special tonight, I have 2 great guests. My first guest is Mr. Alan Waters. Mr. Alan Waters hails from the great state of Rhode Island. He was actually the 2020 GOP nominee for U.S. Senate from that state, and he did exceptionally well against the Democrat there, Jack Reed. Jack Reed was first elected to the Senate, I believe, in 1996, and has been reelected, I want to say 4 or 5 times. But in 2020, Alan Waters gave Jack Reed a real run for his money. Alan Waters performed the best out of any opponent of Jack Reed. I believe he garnered around 164,000 votes. He garnered 33% of the vote, and he came really, really close. This year, Mr. Waters is running for Congress in Rhode Island in the 1st Congressional District, where he hopes to take on the incumbent David Cicilline. All right. My second guest is Julian Acciard. He is from New Hampshire, and he is running for Congress there in the 1st Congressional District. So we'll be talking to Julian later. But first up, let me bring on Mr. Waters. Good evening, Mr. Alan Waters. How are you?
Good evening, Ronnie.
So nice to have you on my show. And as I said prior in the green room, I'm sorry for interrupting your schedule during Super Bowl Sunday. When we booked this interview a couple of weeks ago, it completely slipped my mind that today was Super Bowl Sunday. But nevertheless, thank you for joining us from the great state of Rhode Island.
Oh, so glad to be here, and no worries about it. Like some people, if you're doing other things, you just catch the score. But after our broadcast, I'll finish out the game just fine. So I'm doing great, and I'm so glad to be here with you.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Waters, you were the 2020 GOP nominee for U.S. Senate from Rhode Island, and you did exceptionally well against Jack Reed. So what do you think it was about your race and about you that helped you do so well?
Well, by the way, I was not the nominee. I was the Republican candidate without the nomination. And,
okay.
So, and that's a fine point, because perhaps with the nomination, maybe I would have got even closer. But the background is I did well because, first of all, I just know that the people need change. It's a small state, so even if you're not a giant candidate with either office or name brand or a lot of money, personal or otherwise, to throw at the problem, you just give it a go. And I think there's a lot of people out there, if you really want to take America back, you got to step up and not be afraid of loss, but be ready to win.
Okay, great. Now, you are currently running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District in Rhode Island. Can you tell us a little bit about that race? Well, first of all, before we go into that, can you give our viewers a little rundown on your background and what makes Alan Waters Alan Waters?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I am a native of Providence, Rhode Island, 4th generation. I was born here. Parents were born in the city. I'm a graduate of Providence Public Schools and a graduate of the University of Rhode Island. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration. And I spent a career in financial services. I've been an investment consultant for firms like Merrill Lynch, Charles Schwab, TIAA Kraft. So I spent around 30 years in the business. I'm kind of, if not semi-retired, I've taken some time to run for office, which takes a lot of time. But back to it, I'm a family man. I think that's important. I have 5 children, 3 teenagers at home, and then I have 2 adult children, 40 and 44, and some grandchildren there too. So I'm 66 years old. So, well, by the way, Ronnie,
you look great. You look great, by the way.
Thank you so much. You take care of yourself. Live life in moderation. I try to run at least 12 miles a week in 4-mile sets, and just take care of yourself. Think good thoughts, Ronnie. Lastly, I'm doing this. Oh, by the way, my father, he was a ranger in the Army. He was a Providence policeman on motorcycle. Mom was a bookkeeper. So I come from a good working class family, go to church, keep values, be a good citizen, take care of your family, work, get your education, all of those type of things. So many Americans, I think, have fallen away from that, but I've been blessed to have a mother and father that were there all the way through, and always supported me. And I pass that on to my children and how I work, but also to my community.
Okay, great. Now, so you also ran for office in Massachusetts, correct?
Absolutely. I am a Republican, but I'm not a lifelong Republican. I consider myself a lifelong independent. But that said, in order to win any races, most of the time, you've got to pick one of the two parties. You know how that works. But what I look at it is this. I started to become more conservative along the way. I wouldn't say during that time. I'm talking about 2012, 2013. I wasn't a Tea Party person. As a matter of fact, I went and looked at, as an African-American, as a Black man, I was looking at more conservative, Black-oriented things. And I just realized that my fit wasn't in the Democratic Party because I just believe that a lot of people, all Americans, need to pick themselves up more by their bootstraps and not by government dependency. But that said, I ran for state senate in Massachusetts. I had a home on Cape Cod, still do. And I ran for state senate, Cape and Islands. And then I also was the first Republican running against Senator Elizabeth Warren in 2017. And I like that, Ronnie, because, that really got to give me a feel of what it's like to run a statewide race. But a lot of Republicans came in with more breadth and depth than I had. Either they had held office, or they could throw their own money at the problem, or they just had a bigger brand name. So I didn't get on the ballot as a Republican. I tried as an independent, but I'm not a perennial. I'm not a gadfly. I'm on a mission for God and country, and I'm just trying to get to Congress because we need to take America back from the elites on both parties because they're making a mess.
Oh, yeah. So you mentioned that you worked for some of the biggest, financial firms as a financial consultant for Charles Schwab, for I believe for Mass Mutual also, right? So
I did a little Mass Mutual. When I went to Mass Mutual in 1986, I was their equities coordinator for variable products. What's that mean? They just needed a branch manager on paper. But I started my own money management firm. It was Aquarius Capital Management. So what I am is I'm bold. I push out. I'm not afraid of risk. We're talking about honest things in labor, but so I did that as well. And I tried to go back there maybe to sell commission products. But quite frankly, I like the models where you're working for Charles Schwab. I also work for TD Waterhouse, which is now TD Ameritrade. You're not on a commission. You're not going to make a lot of money, but you can do a real good, honest consulting with people and help them with their financial future.
Okay. We have a question here from Mr. Barry Wilkes. He is the Republican chairman of the Glen Rock GOP. It's a town here in Bergen County. And his question is this: how would you approach the softer Republicans and Democrats in the big middle who consider themselves independents as you have in the past? What's the message to have them come stronger to the Republican side?
Well, in Rhode Island is one of the not many states, maybe less than a half a dozen, where there are more independents than are Democrats and Republicans combined. Same thing in Massachusetts. The most important thing is message. And it's a little easier these days because the Democratic Party continues to lurch towards the left, pandering to the progressives, pandering to the Marxists, the socialists. I think there's even some communists in the bunch. And if we talk about good values, parents matter. I support school choice in Rhode Island and elsewhere. I think that the message and grow the economy, those are the type of things that will really send the message that, let's bring this country back to the center. I'm willing to talk to across the aisle and work with anybody who wants to work for a goal for Rhode Islanders and the American people. So I think that with the message of bringing this country back to the center, moving it forward, but staying with your values, I think that's going to be a great attraction, especially during these days of critical race theory, crazy immigration, even the embarrassment of the nation walking away from Afghanistan the way that we did. So I think some people just need some old-fashioned common sense and traditional values. That'll win.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. Now, coming from the financial world, you've lived a pretty good life. So what was it about the current situation, or rather, what made you want to jump into politics? Because as we know, politics can be a very ugly game. So what made you want to do it, Alan?
Well, I'll tell you, I do believe that our country is going in the wrong direction. In what way? Well, first of all, even when I started to think about politics, just the national debt, which now is $30 trillion. So here we go with both Republicans and Democrats. I'm a Republican, so I'm supposed to blame the Democrats. But let's talk truth to power. Whether it's social goals with the people's money, or whether it's building bombs and bullets and all kinds of other things with a strong military presence. I do believe in to protect the American people. It's those type of things that I see as that really wanted me to join and become involved. Here's another thing. You're an Asian gentleman. I'm Black, African American, and this country is going to be minority majority in maybe 25 years. So whites will still be the overall majority, but when you add all the minorities together, Hispanics, Blacks, Native Americans, Asians, etc., all very diverse groups and within themselves, I'm really worried about America because there's a subset of people of color, Blacks and others, who have been fed this socialist soup, this stew of collectivism. And I don't think that's good for the nation. I'm an American first. I don't care about the color of my skin as much as I'm an American, and we need to save the values built in the Constitution and our Judeo-Christian heritage.
Okay. We have another response from Barry Wilkes, the gentleman who asked that question. I give you credit for running, and you're absolutely correct when you say you can't be afraid or intimidated into not stepping up to serve. Thank you for your answer, and I wish you the best. Great.
Well, thank you very much. One of the things I've learned, may I, Ronnie?
Sure.
Thank you so much. One of the things that I've learned is this, that you have to pick a party in order to win. You just need that structure, such as, being nominated by a party. And so therefore they can help you get signatures and help you with your grassroots effort, maybe. But, statewide parties, they, at least where I come from, they really don't help you with federal office races. But also, when I ran for the United States Senate against Jack Reed, as I'm running today, but back then, I wrote to every U.S. senator, the president, the vice president, Rona, head of the RNC, and I never got an echo back. They didn't even give me good luck, nothing. And this time I wrote to every single, several months ago now, every single state Republican Party and every state committee man and state committee woman in the nation, plus other in parties. Now, why would I do that from the state of Rhode Island? To let them know that I'm out there, because I'm running against the 2021 Trump impeachment manager, who's admittedly openly gay, the acolyte of Nancy Pelosi, and I got no echo back. And I'm saying, all right, maybe I'm not worthy of your money, but you could say my name. You could say something. How about just say, you go get him, Al? And I just hear this silence. And so I realized that anyone who's running in New Jersey and other places, some of that's not easy is the fact that just to attract your own party to even speak that you exist,
right?
That's a mountain to climb.
Yeah, we know here in Jersey, we were one of two states that had a governor's race last year, and Jack Ciattarelli, who was the GOP nominee, he came very, very close to unseating Democrat Phil Murphy, right? He came within
Yeah,
2.5
it was
points.
national news, so it
Oh
was
yeah.
easy to follow.
So there's a lot of people in Jersey who are saying that if the National Party had maybe given some resources to our governor's race here, then perhaps Jack would have had the resources to actually pull it off. So I think yeah, it's really important that the National Party, that the state party, kind of jumps in and helps every single state.
And states, Rhode Island is probably the cheapest congressional seat, be it the House or the Senate in the nation, just because of our sheer size. We only have a one media market, but that the races that they think are close statistically, they dump silly money into them.
Right.
But really, you could put $100,000 behind a Republican in some sort of way in Rhode Island, and you make a difference. But that's not the way they work. You got to show your 250,000, and I guess then you got to go kiss some rings, and it's just like, that's they need to change, but it may not be. I may not be that person that does that. We should move on to the other questions that you have. Thanks.
Okay. Well, so this year you're running for the U.S. Congress, right?
Yes.
Are there other GOP candidates in the race for the nomination?
Well, you know what? I'm going to digress for just a moment because Rhode Island is about to get exciting, and let me explain. We only have two congressional districts. Again, states for 40 by 50 miles. A lot of people know Newport, Rhode Island, and our great Rhode Island beaches to the south. And of course, we have Brown University and other Ivy League here right in the city. So people know Providence, at least passing through to Boston or back and forth. But here's the thing: we only have two congressional districts, but Representative Jim Langevin, a gentleman who representative, a Democrat, he's the gentleman, I don't know if there are any others, who's in a wheelchair. He decided to retire. So all of a sudden, in the second district, I'm in the first, we have a race now when the incumbent's gone, that all of a sudden Rhode Island might get some attention from national, because now we might be able to really put a Republican, which would be somewhat historical. It doesn't happen, in 20-year, 30-year stretches, right. I don't think, around here. But that'll also, I figure, if there's a primary in that race now, there was one Republican, now there might be three. The former governor of the city of Cranston is running. But back to me. No, I don't. I'm running by myself. I don't expect any primary opponents from the Republican Party. So I'm running for November, although I'll put my name on the ballot. And at this late date, I registered my campaign in January 2021. So I've been in a race over a year, just working, chipping away, trying to build my brand here. Yeah, I'm excited about that. And, really the battle of Rhode Island is in the city. By the way, not only did I get 33% of the vote with only $30,000 top line dollars that some of mine was my money, other money that donors gave me, but I also won 3 towns in the state of Rhode Island. So anything is possible in this race. So I'm feeling really good about it, Ronnie.
Okay, great. Well, so for your Senate race, you only spent 30 grand?
Yeah, about that. Feel free to. I know you're a guy that I can see does his homework, but I think it was in that range. By the way, I don't. It's like I knew it was around that. So if I'm a little off, but I won't. Trust me, it won't be 100,000 off. Something like that. But so in these days and times, like a truck driver from New Jersey, it's that thing there. The soccer moms are mad. People are starting to realize that Joe Biden is not the president as advertised as a candidate, and we could go into recession at any time with all of this debt and all of this inflation. So it's time now, it's time for change. And so I think that as a person of my ethnic background in the city, which I grew up with, Democrats think that they own blacks and Hispanics here, but they don't, Ronnie. But you got to get the message out to change people around. I don't think I would win the city. Normally, it only votes 10% Republican. But hey, if I get 30% of the vote or more, I'm in Congress, and I hope you come see me.
I definitely will. All right. So speaking about your message, right? So
Yes, sir.
what is your platform for this U.S. House seat?
Well, it's based on a number of things, but before I go into that, I signed the pledge U.S. term limits, so that because I believe in term limits, I signed the Grover Norquist pledge to not raise taxes. But overall, we have to grow the economy, and we need to reduce taxes, and we need to do things such as lower regulations. Our federal government is way too large, and I would like to be one of the aggressive Republicans that help to reduce the size of government. Our children are not being educated nationally. Once kids get to high school in America, they fall off versus other countries. And in the state of Rhode Island, we have a failed school system. So the city of Providence has been taken over the state 3 years ago. But not that our public school ratings are in the top of the bottom half. Wait a minute, we're only 40 by 50 miles. But also we've learned since this pandemic, it really opened people's eyes that we have, at least in Rhode Island, probably New Jersey, you have what I like to call it a cabal. I looked up the word cabal to make sure I was using the right terminology. But the teachers' unions use Democratic elected officials as and they're calling the shots. Supposed to be the employees of the people. They're supposed to do what we tell them to do and just educate our children. But between that, lack of transparency, critical. So I want to make sure that people have a good education as well. I support the police. What are the roles of government is to protect the American people and from external and domestic threat. And without the police, who should be accountable, we need that, especially in the neighborhood I live in. I live in a poor working class neighborhood. And I want to make sure that when we pick up the phone, we have professional police coming here to maintain peace and order.
Okay, great. Now, was there anything you learned from your 2020 race for U.S. Senate, or like any lessons or any mistakes that you hope to employ and use towards this race?
Absolutely. Well, I need to leverage other people. One of my you need to grow a greater base of volunteers, which I've already done. I have professional pay, advisors that I pay monthly. People who have been in big races, as well as small. I have a committee of dedicated people, and I have volunteers who really believe in me. And just last week, the week before last, I had a fundraiser, and I had Democrats give me $100 check. And I see that as making sure that I have a message broad enough so that not only Republicans will vote for me, but those independents and those more moderate Democrats who are just tired of the embarrassment that's going on with the far left progressives in their party. So that's another big thing. And then just make sure I continue to try to raise as much money as I can. I would say at the moment, I still have a pretty big mountain to climb with fundraising, but it'll come. So I'll just keep knocking, keep at it, Ronnie. I'll keep at it.
Okay, great. Well, last year or 2 years ago, you got 33% of the vote against Jack Reed with only 30 grand. So, but I mean, this time you're running for a congressional seat, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm sure, with even if you had 30 grand, you would probably do even better this time, right? So,
absolutely. And I should surpass that. I see money coming in. By the way, I've had at least 3 or 4 GOP billionaires send me a check. And I don't think they just send checks without taking a peek like you did. Who is this guy? And should we send him my, part of my money? So I know some came from Wyoming and some came from a female industrialist. And when you look up who did that, and the answer is and especially now that the second district is in play and is going to get exciting and maybe get some at least quasi-national attention, because we might be able to pick a Republican seat just in two. That's going to splash right over. So I just need to be ready and continue to move forward. But I have a good message, a smart guy, not bad looking, easy to talk to. Like my people that are around me say, my best thing is when I'm face to face with people and talking to them. And I'm a people person that way. And I just got to work on my stump speeches, Ronnie. Got to work on them.
All right, perfect. Now, so you have 5 children, right? That's a very big family. I don't know how you manage that, because I have 2 little boys, and I can't even imagine having 5. But
I'm on family too. I'm blessed with 5 beautiful children, 44, and then I got 3 teenagers. I have one daughter who's graduating from high school, and I have a son who just went into freshman year in high school, and I have an 11th grader. And so, wow. But we manage. It's not easy, but this is a calling for me. I wouldn't call myself a religious man. If you said, Alan, well, can you quote me any verses in the Bible? And the answer is not too many. But as my father said, the Army Ranger, he was the first Black Army Ranger in the United States, 8th Army Ranger Company, Korea, Korean War veteran, and first Black man, a man of color on a motorcycle in Providence. But he was a 10 commandment man. He said, you know what, you follow that, you've got most of it there. And he's a person that believed in right and wrong. He didn't believe in that fuzzy gray area. Either it's right or it's wrong. And you know what? Politics gets a little fuzzy, but if you keep that mindset, I think that that's my calling, is that if we don't get back to the roots of what makes America the best, we're an exceptional nation by design, we could lose this country. We are literally at war with the American Marxists. And the problem is that they've gained so much ground, Ronnie, because they've had the minds of our children.
Oh, yeah.
For decades now. That's why we have, what the product is? What's happened, you could see with all the major media type companies and the corporations, is that you have people that have gone to Harvard and Yale and Brown and all MBA schools. This is not just in America, but globally. And now what they are is woke industrialists. And I don't think that they believe in our core values like companies used to do. And I'm afraid of that. Plus the educational system. By the way, I believe that we should not have any, the government should get out of student lending. And government money should be attached, Ronnie. It should be attached to any grants and money that we put into higher education, because and it should be attached to the First Amendment, because, I think the ratio is even worse than 10 to 1, where we have liberal professors to conservative professors. Most people, there's so many people in the middle, but that's where we're going to lose our country, because they're indoctrinating and have been indoctrinating our children. And you know what? When you say that, it almost sounds like you're some right-wing lunatic. But no, I'm just a regular guy who's got a family, and and I'm saying, well, wait a minute, they're not teaching what America's all about. So we don't need any more government. We need less government, but we need. I guess people need to be taught some things, and our liberty is the most important of all.
Okay, great. Now, about your 5 children, when you first decided to take the plunge into a political office, into running for office, were they on board, or were they like, "Oh, Daddy, what are you doing?"
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, when I did it in 2014, actually, when I had a little fundraiser in the town of Mashpee, I had my son, who's now 14, so he might have been 7 at that time, and my daughter, she must have been 10, and they were at the desk collecting the checks, so I guess they were with me. Okay. And my oldest son, who was a graduate of Holy Cross and works for a major Wall Street type firm in New York City, he's my treasurer. And I don't believe that he is a Republican. We never talked about it. But what I do believe, Ronnie, is this. I believe that he told me, he said, we don't always believe the same things, but I love you, Dad. So he's taking care of me.
Great. Now, a few more questions, and I'll let you go. So we know today is Super Bowl Sunday. Given the fact that you're from, Patriots country, who are
Yes,
you
that's right.
today?
I'm the American Football Conference is so I'm voting for I'm rooting for the Bengals, Ronnie. I hope that they win, but most importantly, I just hope that the people have a good football game, because there's been a lot of Super Bowls and some of them have been duds. You know what I mean? So it's all about it having exciting. It's and you know what, to have some teams that haven't been there in a while. This is exciting stuff, Americana. So I just I hope that people who are listening in visit my website, AllenR.Waters.com. Support us if you wish. This is a congressional seat, so you can help from wherever state that you want to, especially New Jersey. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter. I'm kind of aggressive on Twitter, but I'm not managed. So if you like some of it, great. If you don't like some of it, I'm the one who wrote it, so I have to stick with it,
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Waters, for joining us today. And like Alan said, if you want to check out his website, it's www.allenrwaters.com. www.allenrwaters.com. And I'm sure when they get on your site, they can find ways that they can help out your campaign, ways to donate, and ways to contact you, right?
Absolutely. And by the way, I haven't got so big for my britches, Ronnie, that I still am in touch with the people. I don't have any filters yet. So bring it on. But I'll tell you, hopefully what you see that you like, and that we're out to help save America.
All right. Thank you so much, Alan. We only need 5 seats this year to take back the House, and one of those seats might go through Rhode Island. So thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate you, and enjoy the game after your show.
Okay, thank you. We wish you the best of luck on your campaign, and we'll be talking to you very soon. Okay, Alan? Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay, so that was my interview with Alan Waters. He is running for Congress in Rhode Island, 1st Congressional District. If you want to go to his website to check out more about his campaign, about his background, about what he can do for Rhode Island's 1st Congressional District, go to AllenRWaters.com. So thank you, Alan, for joining us, and we'll be talking to him very, very soon. All right, next up on our program today, we have Mr. Julian Acciard. I hope I am saying that correctly. Julian is a former Marine. Okay, he was a DoD contractor after he left the military, and now he is running for Congress in New Hampshire's 1st Congressional District, also 1st Congressional District. So the 2 candidates that we're talking to today are both running in District 1, right, in their respective states. So let's bring on Mr. Acciard. Hi, Julian. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on Real Talk with Ronnie. So, Julian, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your campaign, and what you hope to achieve?
Well, my goal is to bring real life experience to this, because one of the issues I've had throughout my entire life voting and seeing candidates come up is every single one of them are professional politicians. And I don't mean that in a good way. They all rub elbows. They intern under the right people. They climb the ladder the exact same way. And they jump on board with whatever popular movement might skyrocket them into office. And then we have them there for 10, 20, 30 years, and we can't get rid of them. But they're not serving us, they're serving themselves. Right. And it has increasingly led us to where we are right now, to where it took a wrecking ball like Donald Trump to be able to break the glass and really put in somebody who is not part of the game. So after seeing what happened in 2020, and after seeing the candidates that glommed on to the America First movement and didn't actually believe in the principles, who have done stuff like already vote in favor of red flag laws, I think it's time that real people jump into office and actually go to DC and serve us. Bring
Okay.
real life experience to finding solutions.
Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, what made you decide to run for office, and about your, prior, military background.
So I run a small business. I've owned it for years. And the reality is running a small business, you have to do things that most other people don't. You live or die by that business. Whether I'm not independently wealthy, I'm just willing to sacrifice. That's basically what it's about. After seeing Uber numbers of candidates running that seem to give up their principles at any sign of the slightest inconvenience, I've become very agitated. Normally, what I wear on the campaign trail is a sweatshirt, jeans, and a pair of Timbs, because I'm usually out knocking doors and waving signs and trying to actually get things done in my local community, because that's what it's supposed to be about. I started my race on the ground working on voter integrity. For a year so far, I have not been actively out asking people for money and donations, trying to fundraise, throwing fundraisers, being around to take pictures with people and then leaving as soon as I've gotten my PR for the day. Everything that I've done because I actually believe in it. If I don't believe in it, I don't go out and do it. And I view the putting on a show and grandstanding and the owning the libs to be incredibly dishonest and disingenuous. And I think the average person in the conservative movement has caught on and sees it. They see the difference between a candidate providing policy, principles, experience, and real solutions based on what actually hits our kitchen table. No more theoretical arguments about this theory versus that theory.
Okay.
We need to get back to somebody making things practical and reasonable.
Okay, great. I believe in your race for Congress, there are a number of candidates that are currently in the Republican field, right, trying to get the nomination. What makes you the best candidate? I believe the nominee last time around is also running again this time, right? So,
Yes.
what is your message? What is your message to the primary voters of CD1 in New Hampshire that Julian Acciard is the best guy to take on the Democrats this time around?
Well, in 10 years, I went from being a homeless veteran after I was medically retired from the Marine Corps to owning a small business, moving back home. My professional background is Homeland Security, anti-terrorism, and behavioral psychology and business management. I've done high threat and executive protection. I've done DoD contracting. Like I said, I own my business. We operate all over the state right now. I'm the only one who outside of politics has any real life experience. I've been to 48 states and 30 countries so far. I read everything that the Marxists and the radicals on the left write, because if you don't know how your enemy thinks, you can't hope to fix it. But my first and foremost goal is to provide real solutions. I don't like the political thuggery in DC. I don't engage in it. I don't go around grandstanding and taking pictures. I'm also the only candidate that can actually say, I've been to the border and not for a press conference, not to take pictures. I've been to Juarez and I've seen the reporters hanging from bridges. I've seen the people running across. I've seen the drug dens. I've seen it all. I've actually been overseas and I served. I actually go to the VA, so I understand what the VA healthcare system is like. My brothers are out there committing suicide and overdosing. I understand it. I lived it.
Right.
So
Okay,
my issue is that level of that level of life experience is something you just don't see these days.
Okay, great. And of course, we thank you for your service and for the sacrifices that people like you freely give to our country. Um, your opponent, should you get the nomination, is Chris Pappas. He is the incumbent there. He was first elected to Congress in 2018. But during my research about your district, I realized that your district sort of kind of flips back and forth. So I believe it went from Democrat to Republican to Democrat to back to GOP, and now it's in Democratic hands, right? So for
Yes.
all intents and purposes, District 1 in New Hampshire is kind of like a swing district, correct?
Yes, it is very much the original purple state. When it's
Okay.
national security and economics at the top of the ticket, things like immigration and inflation, the GOP takes back the House and wins the seat. When it's social issues, they've won the seat. The Democrats have won a seat in the past. The reality is, New Hampshire is a very libertarian-leaning state. We don't really have many of the social issues that have been highlighted in recent years up here. They're sort of being manufactured because the supply of real issues doesn't meet the demand. And all we're trying to do, even the Republicans in our state house, is just solve the problem at the root and leave choice on the table for people to make their own decisions. So if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. You want to get a vaccine, get a vaccine. But in no way should the government be forcing people to make their own medical decisions, or to go to work, not go to work, go to school, not go to school. Hey, you know what? It's your life. If you want to succeed, succeed. You want to fail, then fail.
Okay. Now, the National Party, the RNC, they recently voted to censure uh, Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, right, for their
Yes.
roles on the January 6th committee. Is that a measure that you would support? Or because there are some Republicans that have come out and spoken against the RNC censure. What are your thoughts on this particular issue?
I'm no fan of Liz Cheney or Adam Kissinger or any of the people in the Lincoln Project in general. I'm not a big fan of people who will ditch their principles at any slightest inconvenience. Now, at the same time, Liz Cheney has a pretty decent voting record. Over the time that she served. But the time is moving towards the base. The base is sick of being ignored. The average conservative in the country wants things. They want their freedom, they want their liberty, and they want their rights to be expected and to feel like their voice is heard.
Okay.
The GOP, these establishmentites have acted like the base are a bunch of impetulant children. And the reason we start yelling louder is because we keep being ignored. So I am completely on board with them being censured. They deserve everything that they get at this point.
Okay. So, what are the top 3 issues that you want to focus on in your current campaign?
I have an economic revitalization plan in my policy. I have an immigration plan in my policy. And I think approaching things from a pragmatic position of actually trying to solve the issue, which is something Trump did that no other GOP candidate has done in office since at least Ronald Reagan. And I don't agree with anybody universally on anything because I don't worship men. I have a God. I have Lord Jesus Christ as my savior, so I don't worship men. But he got a lot of stuff right. The effect of a lot of his policy was good. And anyone who could step back and be honest can say, regardless of whether you like Trump personally, you don't have to have a beer with him to recognize that his policy worked. So I have an economic revitalization plan to bring back jobs, bring back production, and get the United States to be self-sufficient. Because what we're dealing with the CCP and their People's War on the United States that they declared in 2019 and the use of unrestricted warfare, we need to get back to being completely self-sufficient.
Okay. So when you decided to jump into the political fray, why did you decide to run for Congress as opposed to perhaps like a state Senate seat, a state assembly seat, or maybe a more local seat? What was it about Congress that made you want to go for it?
The reason because we have such good constitutionalist, libertarian-leaning state reps all over the state up here. We have the largest amount of libertarians elected to office than any other state in the country, which isn't that hard to do considering we have the third largest legislative body in the world. But the issue is when I looked at what I could do and the type of change that I could make, I looked at Congress and I saw every time we start to send somebody, we start to try and transplant somebody from the lower ranks within our state and try to send them to DC, there always ends up being a miss. And it's because a lot of the people that we send to DC don't actually represent New Hampshire first. They go to DC and they forget everything. They got them there in the first place. My sole goal was to go to DC, show that somebody could not be corrupted, serve my time, and then go home. That's pretty much it. I didn't want to climb the ladder and end up being so covered in muck from crawling through the swamp that I become another swamp creature.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I believe it was the movie, one of the Batman films, where one of the quote was like, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain, right? So,
yeah,
right,
exactly, okay. And that's what I wanted to avoid.
All right, now Julian, you're from the great state of New Hampshire. I asked the same question to Mr. Waters before. You're from Patriot country, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so are you also rooting for the Bengals?
So I'm rooting for the Bengals because when I grew up in Dayton, Ohio when I was younger because my parents were based there at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So we used to be fans of the Bengals, but they're more like a secondary team because I'm a diehard Patriots fan. I've always been a Patriots fan. So I basically watched for the halftime show tonight. Okay. Which was like a reminiscent of my childhood, so I loved it.
As a diehard Patriots fan, I'm gonna have to ask you, a lot of people were kind of offended and maybe flabbergasted at the fact that in Tom Brady's statement, he failed to mention the Patriots once. Were you offended?
Yeah, I am. He's taken a lot since he left New England. He's taken a lot of shots at New England. And not just Bill Belichick. He's taking a lot of shots at New England fans. And I get it. We're harsh. We're harsh because it doesn't matter how many rings you got or how many championships you got. When you have a bad day, you get criticized as if you are the biggest loser on the planet. We have very high standards. That's why they call it the City of Champions.
Okay. It's kind of like tough love, right?
Yeah. Like we love Brady. He'll always be someone we remember, but he needs to keep his mouth shut.
If more sports players did that, I think everybody would be a lot happier, right?
Well, in general, I'm all for. I mean, I fought to protect anyone's right to freedom. And while you're wearing the uniform, you're wearing your work uniform. And if the NFL and the team doesn't have a problem with you voicing your opinion, go ahead and voice your opinion. But I don't have to watch it. I can turn off the channel. And I think that level of voluntary association and free speech is something that we need to get back to because the cancel mob all over the culture, all over the country has gotten ridiculous. When I start seeing Ellen DeGeneres and David Chappelle, and I start seeing comedians drop like flies, when Bill Maher is a voice of reason, we've reached a point where that I think the left has created a cannibalistic beast, and it's doing what cannibalistic things do. It's eating itself right now.
Okay.
So I think all we have to do is be reasonable.
Okay, we got a comment here from Ronald. She was saying she's saying that halftime show stunk. So if you missed it, you shouldn't feel too bad.
No, I got to see the end of it just as Dr. Dre did the final line. It was, I would say, it was anticlimactic. It was nostalgic, kind of like when you used to see Aerosmith go on with the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Britney Spears, and it was this pop American icon. But most of the halftime shows in the last decade have been sort of lackluster. Lots of pyrotechnics, not really that great a song choice. Good for visual TV, but I can't imagine it being that good in person. So this one was just, I liked it for the nostalgic reasons.
All right, great. Well, Julian, we want to thank you so much for coming on our show tonight. For the viewers out there who want to learn more about your campaign, this is your campaign site, right? Julian4, the number 4, nh.com.
Yep, Julian4NewHampshire.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Julian. We wish you the best of luck on your campaign, and please do check back in with us if or when you win the nomination. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, guys. So that was my interview with Julian Acciard. If you want to check out his campaign for his if you want to check out his website for his campaign, go to www.julian4nh.com. So what a great guy. You know, I want to thank both my guests for coming on tonight, especially during Super Bowl Sunday. I think both these fine gentlemen have a great shot at winning at least the nomination and maybe the entire thing, right? You know, this year we are only 5 seats away from taking back the House. So, you know, the road to those 5 seats can go through Rhode Island, can go through New Hampshire, can go through Jersey, can go through all these states, right? So every single seat matters. And, you know, it's going to be a big year, I believe, for the Republican Party. But, you know, I just hope that the U.S. does well. You know, we need to get back to a system of checks and balances. And we need to check these bad policies. And unfortunately, most of the bad policies in our country come from the Democratic Party, especially these days, since the Democratic Party is unrecognizable. You know, this is not your father's Democratic Party. This is a socialist, mutated form of the Democratic Party that I believe even Democrats don't like. So anyway, we're very excited to talk to Alan and to Julian, and we will keep a close eye on their respective campaigns. All right, folks, please check us out next week. Okay, next week we will be here, same time, same place. All right, next week, February 20th. Okay, February 20th at 8 p.m. We will be back. Our guests next week include Mr. Fred Schneiderman, who is running for Congress here in my hometown district, District 5 in New Jersey. He is one of 3 or actually 4 candidates right now vying for the nomination to take on Congressman Josh Gottheimer, who is dubbed the human fundraising machine. He's got $12 million in his war chest. But anyway, we'll be talking to Mr. Schneiderman next Sunday, as well as Mr. Jeffrey Sosa Paquette, who is running for Congress in Massachusetts' 2nd Congressional District. So once again, we'll have a packed show next week. And by the way, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. So if you haven't yet gotten your significant other a present or something special, you still got some time. All right. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching Real Talk with Ronnie. I am Ronald Lin, the new point man in politics, and I'm so glad to be able to talk to candidates not just in New Jersey but all over the country. All right, so we're going national. We're talking to everybody, because the only way you achieve real talk is when you talk to everybody, and not just from people from the Republican Party. We talk to people from the Democratic Party too. You got to talk to everybody in order to engage in a real dialogue, in real talk, which is the theme and the title of our show. All right. If you feel that you would be a good guest and you've got a great story to share, you can please contact us realtalkwithronnie@gmail.com. realtalkwithronnie@gmail.com. Email us, okay, and we'll try to get you on the show, but you got to do so as soon as possible because we're booking up very, very quickly. Right now, I believe we're booked almost all the way up until April. So if you want to get on the show, reach out to us as soon as you can. Or if you got someone that you want to recommend to come to our show, recommend them as soon as you can. All right. All right, guys. And one more thing, if you want to check out more about my own campaign, okay, I'm running for county commissioner here in Bergen County. So if you want to check out more about my campaign, go to winwithlin.us. Winwithlin.us. It will bring you to my website in which you can learn about me, my background, my platforms. It'll tell you everything you need to know about me, including how to find this show, right? My Facebook page, my YouTube channel, and everything else. Okay. And of course, if you want to donate to my campaign, it will have a big bright red button where you can donate. Okay. Money matters in the campaign, but more than anything, the messaging matters. So please go to my website, check out my message, check out my platform, and check out what I hope to do for Bergen County. All right, guys, thank you so much. It is February 13th, 2022. You are now watching Real Talk with Ronnie, and I wish you a wonderful, wonderful week. Okay, so with that being said, good night. Good luck, and I love you all. I'll see you next week.